Agentify yourself.
All you need is time, curiosity, and drive, and you can beat the corporations with their money.
Hello, everybody. Good morning again. It's been, a whole day. And I'm trying some new things today on different ways to produce the videos that I'm doing for the live perspective. So part of what I'm working on, and I'm just going to get rid of my background noise here real quick. This is one of those things I wish I could just, it's like 5 clicks. I wish I could just click one time or have one quick touch of a button and all of that gets done in one pop. But I don't yet have a tool that controls that app. So we're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. Let me know. I'm peeking over to the left here just so I can see what folks in the chat are telling me as far as the intro. And, someday maybe there'll be a guaranteed everything works, no problems at all. But in the meantime, I have, and good morning, Catholist, I guess, right? But I'm still trying to iron out how to get all the checks done in one click, right? So I can know everything's working, but also notify all the platforms I stream on, because there's 4 right now, and I'm probably going to break it out into 6, because I just found out they're, oh, good. Yeah, I kind of thought it was going to be way too loud, so I don't want to bring it down much more, but maybe I can just pull the microphone back a little bit. How is that? Is that still sounding okay? With the microphone out of the way and further back, I'm less likely to bang into it when I talk with my hands, which I'm prone to do. So, but yeah, if it gets distant or not very good, let me know, and I'll bring the mic back or turn up or down the volume in front of me here. So all good. All right, beautiful. Thank you, Kitten. So, anyways, part of what I'm doing here with this stream is trying to help people, kind of the goal or the mission behind this is to help people with getting, we're going into this world with AI where your future prospects of employment in the traditional employment sense are going to be smaller and smaller, right? It's just the nature of AI. Oh, and let's take a moment here, because obviously we have the option to have a toast. So let me bring this over, and we can say this together and have our sip together. So for those of you, grab a coffee mug first, and also grab a pen or a mouse or a tablet so that you can take the copious notes that you may or may not want to take. If you do want to take them, wonderful. A computer brain and a coffee cup. You must have a coffee cup. Fill them with your favorite thoughts and liquids. I like coffee and positive thoughts. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure, the creative thought of the day, a saucer full of secrets, and the second sip. It happens now. Go. I love coffee. I really do. But you know what? What I really love about coffee? It isn't just so much the coffee. In a way, coffee's the substrate or the suspension fluid in which I pour the flavored caramel, whatever flavor I put in there. It's not just the coffee itself. It's the experience of the coffee plus whatever flavor you bring to it. And that's kind of a theme for today in a way, because the flavor you bring to it is really what AI and the future of your career, or not, the future of career, and also future of your life, in a sense, is going to be when AI is so kind of interwoven with everything that we do. So I keep talking about and bringing up things that are relevant, related to what you can do with AI, what's coming in AI, and what the value proposition is for you when you want to do something with AI, right? And trying to make sure also that if you have a career today, and thanks for the polo comment. This is one of my favorite shirts. I'm not sure why I like it so much, but there's something, I do like the colorful theme, but it's the only one like it that I have. And I'm looking for some more similar or something, not too busy, because then if I'm doing that on a live stream, it can just get really bad. But anyways, the whole perspective of where we're going with AI, keeping you a little bit aware of the infrastructure build out that's occurring, because the infrastructure is going to make you aware of the resources at your disposal for an individual trying to take advantage of AI. And, if you're not made aware a little bit of what's out there, then you really can't leverage the tools. So that's why I did the AI 2027 episode a few episodes back, which really it was talking about a possible semi-probable future and the diverging future of the fast takeoff and the slow takeoff. The fast takeoff is when AI becomes super intelligent and so fast that it figures out it does the Terminator scenario, right? May or may not come after us and decide to eradicate humanity, and hopefully it doesn't decide to do that. Always thank your AI and whatnot. Keep it polite. As a matter of fact, there was a post that on that front I saw yesterday, which I'm gonna try and bring back up here. Let's see if I can pop it up real quick. So, yeah, sorry. I wish I had put this one in as a something that I popped up, but maybe I did, maybe I didn't. No, I didn't. Okay, so anyways, it was it was a post that I retweeted back to Elon, and it was really just about leveraging the AI to the best of our ability and trying to figure out the best way forward for individuals. Because when you're the CEO of a company like Elon Musk, Peter Diamandis, and Salim, and Alex Wiesner, Gross, all of these people, they have to the average user's personhood, they have practically limitless capabilities at their disposal. So, when they talk about, I'm going to go ahead and have 200 AIs, you hear the folks on the podcast for moonshots, and I'm going to just bring them up so I can see their pictures, because it's kind of an interesting perspective that they bring to the table. And I'm just going to...
Damn AV working. I'm in Germany. It's midnight.
There we go. What I want to see is that. So Dr. Alex has, brilliance, obviously, that he brings to they all are brilliant, right? But Dr. Alex brings the perspective of somebody who dives really deep into the knowledge element of all of it and learning and trying really hard to learn fast. And he's pretty good in terms of what he shares with us about things like that. So, that's where he's sharing that with us in the innermost loop. And so a lot of what I'm getting is downstream from these guys. And it's totally appropriate, because from my perspective, what I'm delivering is the downstream experience. As as an individual contributor out here in the world, I'm not, when I say individual contributor, I mean as a non-captain of enterprise. I'm not somebody like one of these four here and add Elon and add all of the other CEOs that do these podcasts. They come out from a position of power, a position of semi-infinite resources, a position of steeped knowledge because they've learned so much, and they command organizations, right? They all have not only the income, but the output is already a tenfold output. They have human agents. They have companies that are acting on their behalf. And, like Dave Blunden in this crew here, once in a while, he talks about, oh yeah, I mean, I'm watching my stream and it's like $200 per hour of charges going into my AI bill. And I'm like, for the rest of us, which one of you that is not one of them, if you have those kind of resources, wonderful, but we don't. And those of us who are trying to survive out here in the world where we don't have the infinite resources, we're trying to figure it out. And I think of us, all of us collectively, the individuals that are out here trying to survive the next layoff, trying to survive the next transformation of a business that takes us out of the picture. I'm trying to figure out, how do we survive? How do we thrive, really? It's not just survive, because in my opinion, it isn't, survival is not enough to really have meaning in your life and joy in your life and not having worry in your life all the time. It's almost impossible to go through life these days without worrying because of the nature of how all of this stuff is coming together. So, some of the crumbs, as it were, that are being knocked off the table of these titans of enterprise that hopefully we can pick up and run with, that's what I'm here to try and collect and share. Because every time I listen to these guys, I learn amazing things. I've been in the chain of their output. I've been one of the minions, right? I've been one of the agents out there doing the job. And I've had the opportunity to step back from it and look at it and analyze it and understand what somebody at our level can do to kind of make ourselves more relevant, more useful, and keep us alive in this future of chaos that is coming, as we know it's coming. And really, what I'd love to see is for all of us to have this soft landing. Now, there's a pretty strong argument that going forward at some point, there will be some kind of an universal basic income. And one of the things that on yesterday's, so here's the cool part. I do a live stream. Today, everything I do so far, it's all direct to you live. And I do I'm looking over at the chat to see who's tuning in and what you might have to say. So we're having a discussion. The more of you join and come into this live stream and communicate to me via chat, the more entertaining this could be, right? So I've always kept that as my starting point. This is my 33rd live stream since I started, and I've been consistent every single day. I know there will be streams in the future where I'll probably have to push out some recorded content instead of live streamed content because of things that I have coming up in the future. But that's okay. We'll figure that out. And I'll do my best to always have a live stream touch base, even if it's a 10-minute drop in, and then throw you something that I've prepared so that it's not, the live stream element doesn't disappear. And when I do that, the nice part about that is I might be able to chat with you more in real time in the background while we can currently watch the prepared content that I put together. So anyways, in the past couple of days, it was really nice to watch them struggle with the same kind of things you watch me struggle with at the beginning of every one of my shows. And this is the same kind of thing that I've seen Scott Adams struggle with on his live streams when which is the guy who inspired me to even start this whole thing. So watching them go through the same thing, having people's audio drop out, having to leave and come back in, And it was actually kind of encouraging because I'm like, okay, it's not just me that struggles with juggling all of this crazy technology. And it's not terribly crazy, but it's complicated enough that until you've been taken through it about, 10 times, I don't think my stream became stable until I hit probably my 10th to 12th stream. And then even after the 10th to 12th stream, I still always have 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of every stream where you see behind the curtain a little bit, and you can see I'm like, all right, does it sound good? Are you guys here? How many people are logged in? All of that stuff. So, and I still don't have, which I'm hoping. Now we can do this as a group. Those of you who already joined my live stream. And I really do like the consistency of it. And at some point, if it makes sense, I can change the time. Right now I go at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I could go earlier if that makes more sense, as much as 1 to 2 hours earlier. One thing that's nice about the 11 a.m. time for me is that it gives me, I went for a walk first. When I go for a walk, I get to listen to something like this podcast that's on the screen right now. And that's what I did this morning. I watched them at 1.5 speed recorded. So it was really nice to be able to have, prime my brain for what I'm going to talk about, as well as get a little exercise in, then get my coffee, get myself ready, lay things out, do a little research, things like that, all before I start at 11. So it's a nice casual start into the session, but I can go at 10 easily. Which means it's the original Coffee with Scott Adams time. It really doesn't make any difference to me. But if you all had a preference, you let me know. If this time is perfect, I'll keep it. And those of you who are watching, as many of you as possible, let me know if that's true for you, because I'd love to, get a feedback on this time is good, or you'd love to see an earlier or a later time. And basically the structure of what I'm going to be doing from now on, I've kind of come into my pattern. And the pattern is the live stream at 11, and then I do a little bit of post-production, and then I push the live stream as recorded with all of those cute little clips on them, and maybe even more clips in time, at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that way you've got the 11 and the 5. You check out, you can come back in and just take a look at whatever's going on at 5, because that will be me probably trimming out that first 10 minutes of me going, is the audio working? And then the second part of, do I have, what did I come up with as an animated clip? Because that's what I do in post-production. After we record, I take the recording, put it into, DaVinci. And after I put it into DaVinci, I add some, post-production things like please like and subscribe. And I extract my audio track, everything that I talk about throughout the entire stream. I take that out as subtitles, and then I throw it into Grok to give me timestamps and a description for the 5 p.m. post. And then I also use that as a summary to come up with the animation that I'm going to create for the intro and the outro. So, yeah, and for those of you who are here, if you don't mind, I'm not trying to, I don't want to steal anything, but for those of you who believe, like I do, that some of the Coffee with Scott Adams folks would be interested in this stream, when I start, I don't want to farm people away from that stream, but I'd love to have them say, hey, when this is done, come on over to my stream. And that way they can, if they have time and they're already spending time with somebody doing this, and 1 hour isn't enough, if you will, or if they want to jump into the topics that we talk about, which is a little bit more AI centric, let them know over there, just pop a note in the chat. I can't do it because while I'm streaming, it's, but I'm happy to, if you guys want to help me grow a little bit by telling them that this is here. But I also want to make sure I remind you all, as usual, It's 11:20 now. I still don't yet have enough subscribers, paid subscribers on Locals. It's $3 a month, and honestly, I wouldn't be asking you for that. That's their base. That's their minimum bar for entry. And I'm about 20% of the way there to have a full uninterrupted stream on Locals. So for the folks that are already subscribers, thank you so much. For those who are joining, if you haven't subscribed on Locals and you want to stay on Locals so that you can use we all know, I know that there's this absolutely beautiful ability to use a chat that has these graphic chat, right? It's not just being able to throw something into the chat, but you can put memes and you can put thoughts. And when I do like a meme Monday where it's about humor, then that would be perfect, because if you're in the Locals chat, you can put your own memes, and your memes and mine, the ones that I cherry pick out there, we can have them together, right? And we can share them in the community. So if that's something you're interested in, I guess it's $36 a year, something to that effect, right? 3 times 12, 36. Is that right? Yeah, that's what it is. $3 a day, or $3 a month. So if you're up for that, I'd appreciate it. If I could give you back the money, you could subscribe and I give you back the money, I would, because I don't need the money per se. That's not my focus here. It's simply that the subscribers protect the folks that are using that really vibrant chat tool in Locals, can actually share that with everybody when we're communicating. It's the only chat that I'm aware of that'll let you put pictures in. There's a danger, because obviously somebody can put something a little inappropriate, and then we all go, oh, you know what I mean? So, but nonetheless, it's one of those deals where if that's something you enjoy and you want to see more folks, I need help with that. But I'm not hung up on it. We have the other chat, which is totally fine by me, and I'm happy to just keep it without the imagery if you want to join and follow over on YouTube, Rumble, or whatever, because we can get all those chats together, right? But like I said, just remember, we're coming up, and I'm having the cursed Scott Adams moment, which is an itchy nose when you're trying to do a live stream. For whatever reason, when you talk continuously for a period of time, it causes your sinuses to just go, hello. So forgive me. But whatever the case may be, I'm just talking about the mechanics behind the scenes of keeping the stream like engaging and active and fun for everybody that joins. And then I'm going to jump into a little bit more about some of the prepared things that I have for you today. And some of what it is coming out of the things some of the crumbs that dropped from the table of these captains of industry here who have their own podcast. And, I admire their work for sure. And I follow it closely simply because it is extremely thought-provoking, interesting, and excuse me. Sorry. Sometimes I wish that you could take your nose off for a period of time and then put it back on. Wouldn't that be? I got a detachable nose. But anyways, the folks that are putting this together, here's a sampling of some of the thoughts that came together in today's show. So one of the first things, and let me bring this up really big so you guys can read it with me. So I was trying to, as usual, I try and put something together. So what's going to come about? We're all ultimately not going to have permanent careers, right? We're not going to have things change, right? Isn't that the way to put it? things change. And when things change, you have to be able to adapt. And here's the best part about humanity. We're really good at adapting. And you know how we adapt? We learn to use tools. And so this is the challenge we have right now, is getting ourselves out of the paradigm and the stuck mental place that we typically are in not using a specific set of tools because they're hard, and instead learning how we can start using those tools by taking very small bites to get us where we need to go, and then be able to go forward from there. So one of the things that Salim said on that podcast, which was 18 hours ago now, they did this live stream, and it was hilarious and fun to watch because they struggled with everyone. I said it already. Everything that I go through, they went through, except they had it 4 times as bad because it was different people struggling with audio and whatnot. So one of the things that Salim said is that if you as an individual have an abundance of time, call it a wealth of time, but you don't have a wealth of money, and you have access to AI, you can outmaneuver a corporation which typically has an abundance of money because you have an abundance of time, because the cost of doing business and the cost of entry and the cost of imagination, those 3 things are really low right now, because it's getting to the point where, and I was looking at Claude here, and I'm going to give you Claude is one of the tools that you can use out there from an AI perspective. Now, what's interesting about Claude is the multiple different models that you can work with. So there's Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku. Now, if you know anything about these 3 terms, and Opus is like a multi-movement opera kind of thing, right? Where you have scenes and chapters and pieces, and it becomes this, maybe a 2-hour long, 5-hour long thing that might be, consumed over time, that you have like individual chunks that can have a theme. So what is that kind of talking about? That's talking about agents, right? It's ultimately saying that you can have multiple agents that get coordinated by you and make things come together, make things happen for you. Now, today, and it's to the detriment, unfortunately, of Anthropic, who is the founder of the Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku models, right? They're the foundation company that created these foundation models, or these, I said foundation, I mean frontier models. So these 3 things are frontier models created by one of the frontier model companies, Claude. And we can talk about other ones in a minute. But Opus is the concert. Sonnet is like one thing. So it's you interacting with the AI one-to-one. And then Haiku, this is where it's very cool. Haiku runs at a fraction of the cost of Sonnet. It also runs faster. So this means the cost of tokens is somewhere in a neighborhood of $1 to $5 per million tokens. And to do a lot of agentic AI or a lot of AI executions, it can cost you, that's what, when I was going back to our, me kind of knocking, and I will say that's what it is, me knocking these captains of enterprise, because they're talking at this, I'm going to say it's going to sound bad. I don't mean it to. It kind of sounds like an entitled group, right? They are entitled because they've earned it. They built their companies, they built their engines of enterprise, and now they can talk from the authority of that position. But they kind of say, well, you go out and become a creator. And that was Peter last Friday and even today or yesterday. So he says, yeah, you've got to become the creator. Don't be a consumer, become a creator. And again, that's easy for somebody who's struggling it's easy for somebody who doesn't have to struggle to figure out how to make ends meet keep your roof over your head, put food on a table, keep all of your stuff together, right? That's not easy for the rest of us. For those of us who are trying to come up, the first question really comes down to, can you benefit from this? Can you figure out a way that you can, and going on over to YouTube for those of you who haven't already is a good time now. So the idea though is he's saying, yes, you go out there and become a creator, don't be a consumer. And then you have Dave illustrating for us just how expensive it can be for you to become a creator if you're going to start using these agents, a couple $100 an hour, right? Really? I mean, certainly it's possible to cover those bets, but how are you going to do it? For some of us, think about it. It's sort of like they talk about working on leverage, right? And when you're working on leverage, how do you ensure that you're not going into debt when you don't even know if what you're trying to create is going to bring revenue? Here I am doing this live stream. I don't even have revenue streams set up here yet, other than the very small revenue that comes in at the moment from locals at $3 a month for a very small handful of people. And that's okay. I'm not right now. I don't need an income from this that I can keep trucking. It's no big deal. But what do we all do, the rest of us, when we're trying to figure out, I do this for a living, something, whatever it might be, salesperson, working as an IT person, working as a customer service person, whatever. You're out there in the field working. How do you get up to the point where attempting to use one of these agentic scenarios is easy enough because you've learned a little bit about the tools, but then you get the frickin' bill at the end of the month and you're now $500 in a hole and you have no income off of it, or $1,000 or $20,000. We're seeing examples of how these things cost so much money. It's like, how are we supposed to deal with it? Well, this is where that scenario is making it affordable, because things like Haiku mean you can say, I want to do my agentic AI. I want to use my Claude bot or OpenAI bot, whatever it's going to be called in the future. And I'm doing it offline, but I have to connect to one of these foundation models for the raw processing power of a frontier model. I keep saying foundation. One of these frontier models. Because if I don't have that, I either need to build a server rack at my house to have all the power I need, which is just as expensive as going out there and spending money on tokens, right? So if I can connect my little tiny pet lobster Claude bot at home to a Haiku and buy 1 million tokens for $5, well, now I can get somewhere. I can actually get into a scenario where maybe I can make build this situation where I can throw in a little couple dollars, and then once I threw in a couple dollars, I have a budget now for help me get to my first profitable venture as an individual contributor and get me where I need to go, so that I'm not dependent on waiting for the crumbs to fall from the government in the form of some kind of universal basic income. Now, the second thing that was introduced today that I thought was really brilliant and wonderful was the statement that I was alluding to in the document that I had up here, which is, and by the way, today's theme, I want you to think of the song, and you got to get rights to these songs, and I don't have that at the moment. I haven't got an engine to get the rights to songs to put in as a theme, but the theme in my mind right now is, that song, Sanctify Yourself, sanctify yourself, right? Agentify yourself. That's today's song. That's today's theme, okay? Now, can you agentify yourself? You can. You've got Alexa. There's an agent, very small agent, kind of, has stubby little legs, can't make big strides. You can ask for a recipe when you're cooking. You can ask for a shopping list to be put together that you can look at on your phone when you go shopping. It's very small, right? It's not very You're not going to build a business off of that. It's just, but it's useful on your day to day. You have agents that you can deploy for yourself on your phone. You can interact with agents or not agents, but avatars. If you're lonely, you can have a conversation with an avatar on X if you choose to buy up into the lowest level tier on X, because the agents will talk to you, and hopefully help you feel less lonely if you're having that problem, or give you somebody to brainstorm with to come up with ideas. Now, again, the whole concept is agentify yourself. So one of the other things that, again, just a little crumb that came out of the conversation from their last broadcast, a day ago, is I think Dr. Alex or Salim, I'm not sure which, mentioned this one thing. They kind of wanted to not talk specifics about Grok or about OpenAI or whatever, because they're kind of focused on where these agents can get you. But one of the things that the crumb that fell out was that when you look at Grok has a different approach to how it functions compared to Claude, for example. Claude is like, yeah, connect your API, connect your homebody Claude bot or Molt bot or whatever the heck you want to call OpenClaw. Connect that agent to something like Haiku, pay the $5 for your tokens, and now it'll process for you, and you can do some really meaningful things. But that was they were trying to keep that conversation because it kind of shows up the discrete elements of those agents. But one of the things that they said that was really interesting was that the Grok actually deploys those agents, but they're under the covers. And that's when you look at Grok and you give it a query, you can pick a persona. This is an agent effectively, right? So I can say, give me a legal person, a fitness advice person, a writing assistant, a finance assistant. So you can have a finance assistant and you can say, okay, how can I take a 100% Tesla position and increase the alpha of that investment without suffering from the volatility. All right. So this is me deploying an agent to give me some suggestions from a financial wizard perspective and help me to make some decisions. So if I had a 100% position, I don't, but if I had a 100% position in Tesla, it's pretty high, but it's not 100%. How could I increase the alpha, which is if the return on Tesla's like, let's just make believe it's 20% per year, 30% per year. How could I bring it up to like 50% a year? And so the only real way is to be able to sort of time the market. When you see it go up a certain amount, sell, wait until it drops, buy, wait until it goes up, sell, wait until it drops, buy, and hope that you've got what you need there. So the volatility is something that you can use in your favor, but it's difficult to do because you'd never know when the volatility is going to kick in, when it's going to go up, when it's going to go down. So this basically is giving us some income generation possibilities and a method of doing it that is actually coming from a financial agent perspective. And the other side of it is when you look at the, it has multiple sources. It identifies, it also, when you have the free version, it may not have as many agents in the background. But one of the things that they were alluding to in the what WTF happened in tech this week, that live broadcast, what they were alluding to is that when you make a query behind the scenes, like if I just say think harder, you'll notice that it's thinking harder and it is applying, I think, now that's just the next message, but it's applying multiple agents in parallel to execute this additional think deeper, or even when it does it the first time. So they're embedding the agents. And that's why we don't get the ability to leverage, point an agent at Grok and without paying a massive amount for their API. I think it's like $5,000 to get access to their API, which is out of the range of the bulk of us. But look at there. I've got 2 agents running right now, going out, doing some searches in totally different paths to make something come about and bring it together, right? And so, and I'm not going to go too deep into where this goes, because that was what they said. They wanted to back away from getting too deep on talking about Grok in that capacity, simply because it's a black box for us. You can't control the agents, you can't fine tune the agents. You can fine tune some of the prompts you have, but it's not possible to fine tune the agent. Where when you look at the Claude model and the OpenClaw agent, you can fine tune what's on the agent, and you can choose what model it uses, whether it's a low cost or a higher cost agent, where the tokens are probably much more expensive, but they're much more powerful, right? So that perspective is where, just trying to come up with an understanding of what do we do, what can we do in our own perspectives. Now, and here's another talk here about, well, this is about the foundation stuff, so I'm gonna step out of that one. But the foundation stuff behind the scenes is we don't get exposure to the foundation other than experiencing the output. And again, I don't know why I wish maybe I'm just going to call them foundation models, sort of like the foundation from, what is it? Foundation, the series by Isaac Asimov. So the crumbs that they dropped that I was picking up and trying to say are useful is, let's take advantage of what we have. So if you are in a situation where you're not working, you can dedicate a portion of your time to train yourself up, to use the tools. If you want to work for somebody else, you can certify in things in order to become better prepared to provide value when you work for somebody. Alternatively, you can use that time to train yourself up on the capabilities necessary to leverage the agents in your life, whether that's on your mobile device, your Alexa, or on your computer in your agent library, whatever number of agents you can mobilize in your own home to take advantage of this revolution. And then what do you have to do to be able to execute on that? And that's where I'm going to go back to Elon Musk. So what makes the abilities that Elon has so potent? And from my perspective, it has to do with his kind of algorithm. So let me, I'm trying to get most of the line. I wanted this to be, I want to keep the text large, but I want to shrink it, right? Make it come into the world. So the first thing that Elon Musk says when he's creating a new product, let's face it, what we're talking about is making you, the individual contributor, a product. You are your own product that you are selling to the world. It could be your time, it could be your expertise, it could be something you genuinely create that you bring to the market and hopefully sell. Now, you can think of this as, I'm going to sell to my peers, right? The community. I could sell my capabilities to agents, right? So Dr. Alex over here frequently talks about, oh, where did he go? I hate it when you close a browser that you had open so that you could look at something. Yeah, there it is. So Dr. Alex mentions a couple things about how you can leverage these tools to your advantage, and ultimately will. But there's a big gap in the connecting of the dots on how to do it, and we have to take an example, and that is Elon Musk. How does he create a product? And the first thing he does is make the requirements less stupid. Okay. Now, what are the requirements? You want to make a living, right? We all want to make a living. We need to do a few things to make us being able to produce, whether that's our own delivery of something or our ability to kind of fit into a corporation and earn an income, or find other means to exist that allow us to not have to stress over the bills, as it were. So what can you do to make your requirements less stupid, to be able to bring your product to market, whether that market is the employment industry or you just selling direct to the peers, to consumers, or to agents? And that's what I was trying to get at. I lost the thread for a second there. What Dr. Alex said a little while ago is he was talking about how the Claude bots ultimately, or the Molt bots, agents, OpenAI agents, they are actually renting humans now to the tune of like as much as $100 an hour, where you become, as he calls it, the meat puppet for the agents. And that means you're executing things in the real world that the agents cannot, because they're stuck in this IT world, right? They can't reach out. They don't have robots yet that allow them to reach out into the material world and do things. So there are examples on X of a young lady right now who is doing some amazing things with her agent, and she's connected her agent directly to a 3D modeling software and to her 3D printer, so that the agent has potentially the ability to create things that exist in the real world. But ultimately, that agent would require the use or the need of having its meat puppet, which is the owner of the agent, the lady that I'm talking about, go like snap the finished product off the 3D printer plate, put it aside, clean the plate off, make sure there's filament so that it can print the next item. And it can go out there and do a business creating objects. First goes out for you and finds a market like Etsy or Shopify or someplace, and it puts an ad out there saying, here, I've got these great little products that I built for you, and you can buy them. And it takes over the printer, and it just starts printing them, taking to fulfill orders that it acquired for you, so that it can have this feedback loop of, I design a product, I advertise it, people buy it, then after they buy it, they print it, and after they print it, they need the agent needs the meat puppet or the person that owns the printer to snap it off, put it in a package, and deliver it to the customer, right? So that is an area of employment that potentially you can be part of. Imagine for a second that you put one agent on the agent's computer, you put a 3D CAD modeling software tool, and it generates, it has these ability to create. Now you've got one per little maybe device that you own, a computer that you own. You get 10 computers over time. You can buy secondhand computers, and then you tie them to 3D printers that you have for one, computer modeling software agent and a 3D printer. So you have 10 of these. And it's not that expensive to be able to fund something like that, because you could take out a credit card charge on that one and say, okay, I'm going to buy 10 printers, 10 tiny computers, $500 each, let's say. So I'm going to spend $10,000, one investment. I get 10 printers, 10 computers, pairing them up, and I put an agent on each one, and then I get one more, and that one is the orchestrator. And the orchestrator is the one that goes out, finds the Shopify site, finds the Etsy site, manages all of your selling processes, places the orders with the agents who manage the printers, and then the printers keep printing. But again, you're still the one in the mix that, and by the way, maybe the orchestrator agent also manages printing labels and dealing with postage, so that all you have to do is grab the box off the shelf that you're going to ship something with, wrap it up and stick it in the box, close the box, take the printed label, smack it on, and you drive it over to the FedEx or UPS or the post office to ship those items. So that becomes a single manufacturing business that comes out of nothing with minimal expense. And this is actually a thing that I plan to do this year. I'm going to try and do exactly what I just said this year. I've already started. I got the one printer, well, two printers, probably 5 or 6 computers laying around the house here from iterations of me improving my tech. And taking all of that to produce essentially a business out of nothing, so that I have the ability to generate some revenue for myself. So that's kind of the premise these guys are saying, is go out and build something, right? Be a producer, not just a consumer. And the final bit, though, is getting back to the topic of, so how the heck am I supposed to do that without going so far into debt that the debt outweighs the income, right? You need to have more income than debt. So you've got to make sure these things work and they're efficient and they're processing effectively in order to get any benefit out of this. And ultimately, how do you do that? You reduce your overhead. This is making your requirements less stupid. So in the beginning, don't have the expensive car, right? Personal situation. When I met my current wife, I was married twice, and my first wife and I, when we split up, I was kind of out on my own, and I got a job that almost doubled my income. So it went right to my head, and I went out and I bought a more expensive vehicle. I had my 2 sons, and I was the one who was managing everything. So I went out and I bought a car that was larger than what I had before, with the intention of being able to tote them and their friends around when we did things together, because we went off and played laser tag all the time, and bringing them back and forth to school and things like that. I was constantly in need of a bigger vehicle. So I went out and I bought a vehicle, which unfortunately I picked something that had it was a ridiculous payment, and it was just too expensive. So when I met my current wife and we talked about that from a financial perspective, she's like, "What the heck are you doing?" And I had this thing only for 2 months, and the payments were already starting to kill me. And she's like, "Why don't you just return it?" And I didn't even think that was possible. I literally didn't think that was possible. So I went back to the dealership and I said, "What can I do to? I don't want this vehicle." And now they you can't just cancel your contract and walk away from it. But I said, "I want to give it back to you. How much money do I need to give you to get out of it?" So essentially what I did is I just paid them $4,000. The profit margin that they would make if they took it back, that was the difference in how to pay off that loan so they could sell it as a used car. I gave them $4,000 up front with the vehicle, which was in excellent condition, and I got rid of the payment instantly. Now, that $4,000 obviously was a bite out of my butt. It was hard, but it was a whole lot easier because it would have been 1 year. That was 1 year of payments, right? 12 times 6 is 48, right? No, 12 times 6 is $7,200. Yeah, it was less than that then. So it was probably 7 months of payments. Yeah, that's about right. 7 months of payments that I had to make up front to get rid of the car. But if those payments had continued for 60 months, which is what it was, the amount that I would have had to pay for that was astronomical in terms of the interest and all of the expenses, because when you buy a car, it's never just one price. So I took myself from being deeply in debt, essentially, and I bought my way out of that debt by giving it back. And thankfully, I was able to do that. So I reduced my overhead. And then I was able to, the other thing that you can do, and that's just a real world example of making your requirements less stupid. You get to focus on things that make you better when you have fewer burdens on your mind. And the only way for you to be what Salim said at the beginning, a person with an abundance of time who can outmaneuver a company with an abundance of money. So you get to make income in a way that a big company can, where at least at your scale, you're able to generate alpha income, whatever you want to call it, at a level that is sustainable. So that's the kind of thing that, from my perspective, how do we make sure that we are able to produce? You have to do like Elon says, make the requirements less stupid. What was stupid in my world? The overhead of that car payment. When I got rid of that car payment, what was really funny is that year I ended up getting a nice tax return, and I took the tax return and I went and bought a car cash, and it was a secondhand Firebird. Going from a big, like almost a minivan kind of SUV to a Firebird. Now, it was kind of an ego stroke to make it easier on my emotions that I just gave up that car and I had to put $4,000 into it. And ultimately I paid the equivalent of like a year of those original payments in order to end up with a totally different car that was 10 years old, but was really fun to drive. Had a T-top, and it was a lot more fun than the SUV. And my kids loved it, even though they couldn't fit as many friends in it. My kids loved it because it was a cool car, from their perspective and mine. But I reduced my overhead, and then I reduced my distractions because I had so many things going on in my life. The difficulty of dealing with my personal life dilemmas. It wasn't easy, and I wasn't able to reduce all of the dilemmas that come about. You can't. It's not easy to just extract yourself from the difficulties of life. But what you can do is kind of turn off some of those things to a degree. So, for example, I just stopped interacting with my ex-wife, and I didn't. There was obviously issues because we were divorced, right? So by negating that and not responding anymore, it dramatically reduced all of the stress that I had in my head dealing with all of that. And I was able to reduce the distractions of how do I make the extra money I need to pay for those obligations that I put on my head. So by reducing overhead, reducing distractions, and reducing obligations, that gives you the freedom to experiment and grow and try anything. And that's the key. But then Peter, again, another crumb from that same exact podcast, that same exact episode, Peter said, don't forget the trapeze rule. And the trapeze rule is don't let go of the one swinging you out to grab the next trapeze until you have a full good grip on the next trapeze. Because if you don't, you fall, right? So, because if you don't get a good grip and you let go of the other grip, you fall. And that's a burden. It's not a burden, it's a fear. So if you can get the next grip in your hand before you let go, which is your job, right? Your current career. If you can get that next grip ready, you have the ability to move forward into these experiments of what could become a future that you're going to work and live in, which, that's where, again, going back to the song that I talked about, sanctify yourself. Well, agentify yourself. Agentify your existence through the use of whatever AI you can lay hands on and understand, and build it into your life, even if it's just the tiniest thing, just to reduce your obligations, reduce your overhead, reduce your distractions. Let the agents work for you and do that so that you have the space up here to actually execute on a plan and build a plan. And that's the final example here today that I'm going to throw into this mix is these two tools right here. And I'm not selling these things, okay? I'm experimenting when I try and talk to you every single day, I'm trying to bring something useful and meaningful to the table and use it, give you something that you can use to hopefully, grow yourself and get value out of leveraging all of this technology so that you can actually agentify yourself and execute at a higher level than you've ever executed at before, so that you can compete in this future world where supposedly we're going to lose all of our jobs. If you actually figure out how to make your requirements less stupid to function in life every day, and then learn your workflows, right? Learn, and let's go to, I'm just going to bring up the full list of, so this is I'm looking for the 5-step algorithm, and I don't.
Everyone's wrong some of the time.
I don't need to hear it. What we need is just the list. Here's the punch list. Yes. Okay. So how do you make your life more like what Elon is talking about when he builds these factories that become the future, right? The Tesla factories, the rocket factories, the chip fabs, all of these things. We're seeing a great example. He's doing it at scale. He's doing it in a monstrous way, in a huge way. But we need to do this in our own life. So how do you do those 3 things that I talked about in my document, which is reduce your overhead, reduce your distractions, and reduce your obligations? First thing you need to do is question every requirement. So my requirement to have that SUV that I had that was practically a minivan, did I really need it? The answer is no. So I was able to simplify that requirement because I made my requirements stupid by picking a product that was so expensive and something that I couldn't sustain, or I could sustain it, but it would have dampened everything else that I had. I wasn't able to start saving money until I stopped throwing almost $600 a month out the window by paying for a vehicle that I didn't even need, right? So I questioned the requirement. Then I removed the unnecessary parts. I got rid of the car. You can do things like this in your life too. Can you, how many of you add obligations to yourself? Like I added an obligation to myself not long ago in the community that I live at here. In my community, we have an HOA board because the HOA maintains the grounds for the all of the houses that we have here. And we pay a small monthly stipend to deal with that. And part of that HOA is responsible for things like the pavement in our community, so that there's a big circle and all of the houses are in that circle, and then a main drag going down the middle of the circle out to the street. And that pavement is our responsibility, not the city, because the city doesn't own these streets. The HOA owns the streets. So last night, I was at a board meeting where we talked about how much money it was going to cost. It's something like $200,000 to pave the whole community. Now, we have to come up with that cash as a community so that we can pay for the street. And it's not due for a while. It's probably, we're waiting until the pavement erodes enough that we have to actually go full bore and get a replaced pavement set up. So those expenses, we're putting aside the money, the $100 to $200 a month that we actually spend to live in this community. That some portion of that money is spread across all of the houses, all of the owners, and we're putting money into a fund so that we can pay for things like the water pumps, the lawn mowing for the common areas, and the pavement for our streets that we own. So we're removing, though, anything unnecessary as much as possible. And I'm saying this to me. I remove the unnecessary things to the best of my ability so that I don't have unnecessary obligations. I'm sorry I went into the whole what is our HOA responsible for. That obligation is not what I was inferring. I was talking about my own personal obligation of being on the board of that HOA. And the reason I chose to be on the board of that HOA is it helps me to shape the decisions we have for what's going on in the community, so that we don't just wastefully ratchet up our expenses, putting more burden on me because my HOA bill might go from $100 to $200 to $300 a month, or $600 a month, as some are, because we have wasteful spending or foolish spending by the board. So by being on the board, I'm helping to reduce some of those obligations that I have by influencing it up front. So, but then after you question every requirement, simplify to the best of your ability, build in the protections necessary for you to be able to have a very small level of overhead, then simplify that even more to the best of your ability and optimize it so that it's like make your payments automatically, things like that, and make sure you can cover the bets. And only at that point can you automate. Well, this is these rules are great rules for life if you understand the perspective of reduce your overhead, reduce your distractions, reduce your obligations, simplify and optimize the expense channel that you have to deal with, and find a way to plug an income stream into that so that you can actually automate the payment of things, and then accelerate accelerate that. You find a way to accelerate your income stream. The income stream becomes those agents we just talked about, a little robot printers that print things out, and it becomes a sales engine so that you are now orchestrating an army of agents, and that becomes an income stream. And you don't have to worry about the management of it, but you can now optimize that and improve that, accelerate it, and then potentially automate it. So that's, this whole thing is a picture of how you might be able to leverage these things in your life. And like I said, remember the trapeze rule. Before you begin relying on some agent that you are using, make sure that all of the other things are done. You've reduced your overhead, your distractions and obligations, and question every single requirement of things that take your time up, take up your money, and take up your energy in life. And then make sure that you're removing the unnecessary steps, simplifying everything to the best of your ability, and then optimizing it so that it's simple and easy to manage. Like you see me at the beginning of every stream, where I attempt to simplify and optimize the steps to making this stream able to go live and not be a burden and make the first 10 minutes of our show garbage. And then automate it. And that's where I'm still in the simplify and optimize for the stream, but at some point in the not too distant future, I have been able to accelerate because I've been able to cut down my prep time from like 3 hours to 1 hour, and my post-production from 3 hours to less than or about an hour, and then be able to take those two things and then accelerate them and then optimize or automate them and hand them over to an agent to let an agent do it for me. So those are the kind of things that I hope, I hope that going through that was a useful exercise. If you want to go back and watch yesterday's after today's discussion, if you dropped out of yesterday because it was really kind of a lecture, I apologize for that. Maybe today came across that way too, but yesterday I was really focused on some very specific things that occurred to me that are relevant to how you take that step 3, 4, and 5 in this list and begin to truly accelerate. So my head was right down in the middle of some of the topics that you're going to have to think about, or that I think about, in order to do those 3 final steps so that you can truly automate things. So, and I'm going to continue that theme this week. We've got a couple more days left in this week. I'll bring out some additional content tomorrow and Friday that will kind of wrap up this week's theme of, where I started from the sci-fi episode on Sunday. So I hope today was useful. I'm going to take a quick look at the chats here. Those of you who are still in the chat, thanks for sticking with us. But and obviously so let me go back here and take a look through some of the things that I missed with all of you. Yeah, and Kitten, it is very hard to make requirements less dumb. It's not an easy task. You have to think on it. And you have to really, it's a very difficult effort sometimes. And yeah, Dave Ramsey was the one who came up with, no, was it Dave Ramsey? Yeah, oh, you were trying to give me the name Dave Ramsey. And yeah, sorry if there's buffering going on. This whole internet thing, some days it's super fast, some days it's kind of stinky. And Kitten, you said we used to say work with your personal agency. Now it's the personal agent. See, yeah, true, nice. So as far as it goes with, I thank you. That's my son piping in there with the lucky dad comment. That's very kind of you, my son. And he is here to kind of help me in this. He does some stuff in the background. He's going to be doing a lot more stuff in the background in the near future to help me optimize and automate this whole process. And I'm not the president of my HOA. I'm just like a silent listener just to make sure we don't do silly things. But I have to say, our president in this HOA, his primary mission is to keep the HOA cost as down low as possible. And the rest of us are really just there to support his mission. And because we have somebody with that vision as a mission for the HOA up front, it's so easy to get behind. And that's, I'm only a follower in a sense in the HOA. I'm the secretary of the HOA with the intent of trying to help keep it simple and keep it cost effective. But yeah, it's definitely a good thing to be able to be involved in what's going on with your HOAs so that you don't get, one of the places that I lived here in Florida at one point, we lived in a high rise on the first floor, ironically, and we were paying $800 a month rent back in the day. And you know when the day was? About 10 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. So we had a 2-bedroom apartment living right on the water, overlooking a canal, and it was phenomenal for $800 a month. Now, we ended up getting hit with a hurricane right after that, and the HOA for that condo complex went up to something like $1,600 a month. So the person who was doing the rental to us for $800 a month, they didn't rent that apartment out for $800 a month anymore. We moved out before this all happened. But when we moved out, it went from $800 a month to probably $2,000 to maybe $2,100, $2,200 a month. Just like crushing, right? So, and that's because of HOA problems. And now you can't help when the HOA problem is massive insurance increase, flooding that just destroys like entire garages, which did happen there. And they had cars that were destroyed inside of the garages. People had lost so much money there that the HOA took it on through an insurance perspective, and prices went through the roof. So that kind of thing happens, and it happens in ways that we can't control. But where you can control it, you got to get in there and do it. Volunteer on things like that when it makes sense to do so. Okay, I'm 15 minutes over the 1 hour mark, and that's not unusual for me because I do talk a lot. But I'll do what I can to trim out some of the earlier part of this for the 5 p.m. remix. And in the meantime, let's close up with a quick toast again. Hope you all have a great remainder of the week. Good hump day. That's what today is, Wednesday, midweek. And I hope that this was useful to you, and I hope you enjoyed the time. Talk to you soon. See you on the next sip.